Stealth, the skill of quietly moving across a space unnoticed while remaining in the shadows. Certainly not the genre I think of initially while I'm searching for something to play. I associate stealth games with observing and waiting for a chance to shoot or strangle an NPC. I'm aware that different games implement stealth in different ways. I just don't have a lot of patience. Let me make a clarification. I'm referring to more realistic depiction of stealth, something in the vein of Splinter Cell. It's no coincidence that I brought up Sans Fisher's Adventures. This game maybe borrowed some ideas from the Ubisoft franchise. Let me set your expectation before you become overly excited. This is a budget title. However, the studio might not have the big money and or the backing of a big publisher, but the talent was there. It's quite unfortunate that the studio didn't manage to reach its full potential. Some of you might have heard of Illusion Softworks, but you are probably more familiar with their work. For those unaware, Illusion Softworks was a game studio based in Brno, Czech Republic. It was established in 1997 by Peter Vochocka and Jan Kudera. Their fame comes from the 1999 Hidden and Dangerous, a tactical FPS that takes place during World War II. They also made, along with Pterodon, another Czech studio, the cool-looking Flying Heroes, but probably their most memorable game is the original Mafia. Around year 2000, the beginning of the new millennium, Peter Vochocka opens a subsidiary studio in Bratislava, Slovakia, Silver Wish Games. He helped with the development of their games. Unfortunately, they didn't survive long. They are credited with making 4 games in total. In 2004, they released the arcade flying game Wings of War, Chameleon, the subject of this video, in 2005, Circus Empire, a strategy game, in 2007, and finally Axel and Pixel in 2009, a good-looking point-and-click adventure game. It's actually on Steam. The studio closed in early 2005, just after the release of Wings of War, but Peter Vochocka continued development of their subsequent games and they were published under the Silver Wish Games label. This untimely closure led to releasing Chameleon in just 3 countries, Russia, Poland and of course the Czech Republic. The development started when the studio opened doors and it was finished in 2003, but for some reason was published in 2005 after the closure of Silver Wish Games by 2K Games, their publisher, with no marketing or fanfare. This robbed the game of any chance of success. For those who played it, they know its qualities and while not perfect, hold it dear to their hearts. Let me show you why people, including me, like the game. Chameleon is a stealth action game where you take the role of an anonymous former CIA agent. As a child, he witnessed the murder of both of his parents. A sniper assassinated his mother and his father, an American diplomat in Nicaragua. Years later, he joins the CIA, but after some time on the job, he begins to hunt down the assassin. But the agency didn't care and or was unhappy that he was wasting time and money on something pointless, so they fired him. He does, however, still have a friend inside the CIA, Mike Wise, who is eager to provide him with information. Our main character is searching for a heavily modified sniper rifle that was used to kill his parents. By a chance, according to him, there is a seized weapon shipment by the British forces 15 days before the start of the game. The protagonist manages to get MI5 to send him case-related documents. Inside, there is also ballistic expertise from the sniper rifle found in the shipment and the one used in his parents' assassination. His friend gives him the file, but concludes concludes that this is not the same rifle used 15 years ago, based on the documents. Despite that, the changes are too similar to be ignored. After a nightmare remembering the murder, he decides to leave for Belfast, where the shipment was heading. Mike gives the number of a contact in the UK, and after some chatting, he is told that another similar shipment is coming. The name of the middleman, John O'Rourke, an IRA member, and his address in Belfast. So he flies there and follows his target. And from Belfast, his revenge mission takes him all over the world: Albania, Moldova, Colombia, Lebanon, Baltimore, USA, Argentina, Cuba, and finally Afghanistan. The story itself is not particularly noteworthy. There aren't any unexpected turns, it's very straightforward. There is one at the very end, technically, but it doesn't make much sense. But the story structure itself is what makes it interesting. Throughout the entire game, you follow breadcrumbs that take you to various locations where you can learn about people, infiltrate incredibly dangerous places, etc., and you use your particular set of skills to solve your parents' assassination. There is a meaning to where the story sends you. For lack of better words, it's the journey that matters, not the destination, although avenging your parents do matter a lot. However, there are certain flaws with the storyline that may cause you to lose interest. As a result, the plot appears to be missing some pieces and some things just don't make sense. I'll go into greater depth in the spoiler section. One of the most interesting aspects is how the mission briefings are delivered. Usually, before starting a level, you call your CIA friend Mike Wise, who continues to assist you with intel. You see What Are You Talking About presented as a board with all the connections between the points of interest. It's a minor element, but it adds a lot of character, giving the impression that you're connecting the dots. Such things make me happy. It demonstrates how much the developer cared. This is your spoiler alert. If you wanna go blind into this game, go to the time on the screen. Let's continue. After landing in Belfast and discovering his address, you overhear O'Rourke talk with someone named Sean. He needs to get a briefcase containing money from someone else, which is necessary for their weapons shipment operation. O'Rourke walks into the meeting site and you cautiously distance yourself from him while tailing him. The meeting takes place in a graveyard, and after a brief exchange of words, O'Rourke grabs the briefcase and heads up to the exit. You follow him and end up losing him at the factory. Then you sneak inside by climbing on conveniently placed wooden boxes next to a wall. After eliminating several guards, reach the factory depths and witness gathering of people preparing the deal for the weapons shipment. Sean informs O'Rourke that one of their guys, who is supposed to arrange the shipment, has gone missing, and he wants to send O'Rourke to finish the deal, but he's too afraid of someone named Valois. He also assures that the convoy spot is safe, and he mentions that they are moving the next day to a farm. Unfortunately for them, the SAS arrives, O'Rourke and Sean split up, but not before Sean informs him their rendezvous at County Donegal. Sean manages to flee before being shot or apprehended. O'Rourke, on the other hand, was never meant to get there. He gets caught up by a bullet. So now you have to sneak past the SAS and shoot your way out of the factory. After escaping what is essentially a death trap, you contact Mike for information on the farm, and by coincidence he learned about one in County Donegal, which was considered to be an IRA base of operation. Katie Reid, whose brother was murdered there, provides all the intel. Mike arranges for Katie to leave the farm plants in a destroyed house and for the two of them to meet at her home. You arrive at her house after locating the plants. She promises to distract the guards so you can reach Sean Mines, who is responsible for her brother's death. You eventually catch up to him, knock him out, and tie him. You try to learn more about the weapons cargo, but Mines tries to lie his way out. However, you have already gone through his belongings and discover a return ticket from Lafayette and a business card from a warehouse on Archer Street. You leave him there for his colleagues to deal with him, then take a folder from a safe and exit the farm. You phone Mike and inform him that Valois is supplying the IRA with guns and the shipment will pass through Lafayette. Unfortunately, he will not be able to be interrogated because he was assassinated. However, Mike has discovered two shipments linked to him. One is from Lontinas and the other is from Uryopinsk. This is what he says.
But I got some hot shipments connected to his name. One from Lontinas and the other from Uryopinsk. Where the hell is that?
They speak like they know one of the places. What? There is more to this issue, but it will become evident later in the video. Essentially, you are playing a guessing game which of the two places you need to go for information about the shipment that initially set you on a quest. Lontinas is an Albanian semi-military airfield with one runway, so this is the next destination. When you get to the airport, you sneak into the control center to find out when the flight you are looking for will depart. After changing your clothes to access the military section of the airport, you make it to the airplane, but you are knocked out and taken inside. The kidnappers, who work for Valois and deliver a weapon shipment for the IRA, want to question you, but you break free, shoot everyone, dump the container and jump out of the plane. After landing, you call Mike and inform him that the plane he was on was carrying the IRA weaponry and not the one you are looking for. The train station at Europinsk, Moldova is the next stop. You enter a heavily guarded depot through the civilian sector, board the train and drive to a separate section of the same facility. No one checks the train when it arrives. The guards are doing excellent job. There is nothing to see here, there is nothing suspicious. You manage to crawl undetected and board the train with the package. This game manages to continue the history of fantastic train levels. It's one of the few action-packed. More on that later in the video. You get to the weapons and nothing happens. You simply complete the level. What happens to them is never explained. Were they set on fire, blown up or somehow destroyed? Nobody knows. Anyway, you contact Wise to see if he has any fresh information. Mike says that the only thing he discovers on Valois was a 10-year-old arrest. He was detained with a girl, Conchita, but all the files are buried in Baltimore's police station. So, next is US soil. You go to a bar to speak with a bartender who is associates of Mike. He explains where the police station archives are, where the file is kept and how to gain access to the precinct. You enter the archive, read about the arrest and exit the police station like a boss through the main entrance. When you tell Wise that Conchita has been sentenced to a prison in Colombia, Mike says that this is not an official prison. Why a police station in Baltimore would have a file on a woman who is being held in an off-the-books prison defies explanation and makes no sense. I guess the developer couldn't figure out how to send you to a Colombian prison. Getting confused? This is just the start. You begin a prison break in the darkest of nights. You move through a sewer, courtyard and buildings before finding Conchita. You begin asking questions, but at first she is reluctant to answer anything, but after being threatened with being left to rot, she agrees to provide additional information once she is free. But you're not convinced until Conchita reveals that the sniper rifle was a Dragunov and that it was meant to be used on an ambassador's family. You successfully sneak her out. Yes, it's an escort mission, but it's short and the AI did well. Conchita reveals that the person who used the rifle has a nickname, Dracos. However, the guns were ordered by someone else, a Middle Eastern man. Furthermore, the cargo was smuggled from Lebanon on a ship under Cyprian flag. In Lebanon, someone named Ahmed Farid was running the deal. He was being given orders by a Middle Eastern man. After hearing about your results, Wise provides you with the location of Farid, now with the title General, Beirut, and begins to investigate Dracos. The mission in Beirut entails breaking into Farid's headquarters, photographing him and faxing it to Mike from a propaganda center. Wise verifies that this is the general, but before going after him, he identified the one who pulls the strings behind Farid, Mohammed Hassan al-Youssef, the Middle Eastern guy, along with a photo. Mike receives this information from a Middle Eastern source there. He came up with the name after a few questions. He will be there on the same day as you, so there are now two targets to pursue. However, things become more complicated. The Israeli forces storm the area and getting back to the general's headquarters becomes more difficult. When you arrive, Farid is gone and one of his soldiers dies in front of you. Fortunately, another one downstairs is still hanging and informs you that the general has been wounded and carried to an underground hideout, but you must pass through the excavation site to get there. You must now sneak between fierce firefights and many soldiers from both sides of the conflict are attempting to stop you. You locate Farid in a bed, bleeding profusely, and begin questioning him. He doesn't say much, as expected, but the only thing valuable he mentions before dying is that his boss never arrived. When you call Mike after the mission, he tells you that Dracos is most likely Emilio Hernandez da Silva, the current chief of Cuban military counterintelligence. He has an old smuggling submarine that is currently being repaired in Argentina. You must log into the onboard navigation computer to search its logs for further information on Emilio. A local will assist you in obtaining a device to hack into the computer. The submarine is stationed in a harbor and the contact is in one of the hangars. However, he had to hide the interface device in a red container because the guards were expecting everyone for it. You also need a code for an electronic lock that protects the computer. So you locate the interface and board the submarine. A technician is there and you manage to convince him with a gun to his face to give you the code. However, it's a trap. You contact Mike after escaping the ambush. This is where things start to get even more confusing. On the mission briefing, the board, the Middle Eastern contact from Beirut turns out to be the one who planned your parents' assassination and he was an unexpected double agent. I was consulting a walkthrough on YouTube for one simple reason. I forgot to record the first 20 minutes from the level in Moldova. The confusing part is that the subtitles on the YouTube videos convey a somewhat different story. Now hear how it goes according to the videos. Mohammed Hassan al-Youssef, real name is El Badami according to Mike, and he was a double agent. He ordered the execution of your family to avoid your father telling anyone. And then Mike tells you about Drac. What I saw in my playthrough was just the latter part. When I reach El Badami, it tells you why he murdered your parents, but it comes out of nowhere and makes no sense in the context to what you've seen until now. The subtitles are based on the English audio, which tells a different enough story to confuse you. I honestly prefer the subtitles from the YouTube videos. Everything is worded a bit better. However, it still doesn't explain how everyone reached to the conclusion that the Middle Eastern contact, Mohammed Hassan al-Youssef aka El Badami. He mentions that he set up a trap in the submarine. That means he gave information to Mike for that thing to work. This part is very confusing to say the least, even after rewatching countless times the YouTube videos and my recordings. This is something you have to endure if you decide to play it. Let's continue with the story. Mike says that Emilio aka Dracos, the sniper from Nicaragua, travel every Monday for a staff meeting in Havana, and this will be your opportunity to take him out. But first you need to inspect his car to determine what weapon you need to find and his route. So you travel to a port of Cuba, you photograph the road map and notice that Emilio's car is heavily armored, requiring the use of a big gun. You would think a bazooka, but it's actually a sniper rifle. It's probably more elegant. You call someone in Havana thanks to Mike and arrange the delivery. You reach a cafe after carefully avoiding the street blockades while you have to pick up the sniper rifle. However, the guy was unable to bring the weapon to him, so he spread it in 3 parts. He hid it in 3 different locations nearby. When you think about it, this perhaps is the most ludicrous thing in the entire game, and there are plenty. How did he manage to hide the parts yet not carry them with him? To be fair, this could be seen as exploring the area for what comes next, but it appears to me to be padding the runtime. And this isn't even the conclusion of the game. Anyway, you reassemble the sniper rifle and enter a tower with a good vantage point to wait Emilio's convoy. You rush to a safe house while everyone is looking for you. It's a home stretch. Mark informs you that El Badami is hiding in a small Afghan village. You'll be met by a local contact who will take you to his hideout. You slip through an enemy camp and find him. He takes you to an underground base and tells you that if you don't steal specific documents, he won't help you any further, and he offers explosive to blow up the complex. You initially refuse, but this guy continues to act suspiciously, so you eventually agree. You go there, take the paperwork, blow up the place, and return to this guy. He begins driving towards the hideout while many people try to kill you on the way there. He does, however, crash the car. I believe a cutscene is missing here. It's just a weird cut. You must scroll while bullets flying above your head. You locate a pistol near the hideout's entrance and begin shooting everyone who's guarding El Badami.
Bloody bunglers.
Here I am, you bastard. You killed my parents.
So, it's you.
Seems so.
I knew it wouldn't work in Argentina. However, I didn't expect you this soon. You won't get on so easily here.
I will. Trust me.
Hey, I'm sorry about your family, but I couldn't do anything. Your father had discovered I was a double agent. If he reported it, the last 5 years of my work would be nothing. I'd have lost all my money. I had to get rid of him.
It was all about money?
What did you think, you idiot? I don't care about all this. All I am interested in is money. Without it, you're lost in this world, man. It is important that people wage war somewhere so that I have a constant demand for my goods. And there are plenty of people interested in it. You'll make a fortune out of it.
Who rumbled me in Moldova?
Why should I tell? Do it yourself.
Is that all?
Yes, it is. You won't get anything more from me.
See you in hell. Yeah.
Hi, it's Mike.
Hi. What do you want?
Man, you're back and not calling me. I need to talk.
You do already?
Not by phone. Can I meet you tomorrow?
Yeah.
Same time? 4 p.m.?
I'll be there.
Bye.
Hi.
So you did it. You got him.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And I didn't believe you. 15 years. How do you feel?
Not much. What couldn't you tell me by phone?
Yeah, well, you helped us with El Badami. The boss started over and said something about you coming back to the agency. What? What's so funny?
That everyone thinks I'm so stupid?
Who?
The agency. They kept me under surveillance. They threw a spanner in the works. When there was no other chance, they sent me to pull the thorn out of their flesh.
But...
I suspected them from that damn weapon shipments in Moldova. Only you and me knew what happened there. No one else. But it was clear when I had to go for the documents to that Afghan village.
Christ, you?
Whatever. I killed the bastards. They got what they deserved. I don't care about the rest. And if by any chance they didn't bug you, you can tell the boss he's a dumbass and can stick his offer you know where.
Yeah, oh God, I'm a real asshole. Hey, I...
No problem. We're friends.
didn't know it.
I tell you, drop it.
What are you gonna do now?
I'm going to invite you for a glass of beer.
No, I mean, what's next?
I don't know. But there's always something. Plenty of people need help, you know. So what about the beer?
They kept an eye on us all the time. I can't believe it.
Believe me, first round's on you.
I like how straightforward the answer for why he murdered your parents is. Money. In theory, I enjoy how the CIA manipulates you, but I'm not sure how the protagonist recognized that his ex-employer was engaged since Moldova. Also, after the papers in Afghanistan, he was sure that the CIA was involved. But how? There is no explanation why the papers matter. Even in the ending cutscene he was, yeah, the CIA was involved, for reasons. Regrettably, this is not an isolated case. There are plenty others. The story reeks of 90s movies. Something along the line of Ronin, Enemy of the State and Patriot games. Not so much in terms of quality writing as much as how the world feels. It's never explicitly stated, but the game takes place within that time period and I find it enjoyable. The plot holes are bigger than on a Swiss cheese. There are too many inconsistencies and I think I know why is that, at least part of the reason. The translation. It feels like either the studio didn't have time to flesh out the story, or money, or time, or combinations of all three. Part of the plot is definitely lost during translation and I would have missed some important moments if it weren't for the YouTube videos. However, key points need more explanation and more coherent way to connect them, which means that the story is not fully developed by the writers on the dev team. There is no certain way to know if I'm right or not. At the end of the day, I can judge it the way it was released. On a surface level, it's enjoyable, but on a deeper, it needed refinement. Here's an interesting fact. This is not my first time playing the game. The difference between now and then is the language barrier. I played it in Russian at that time. I had trouble understanding the story, but it was never an issue because the gameplay is solid. Chameleon is a stealth action game that focuses on sneaking up on and choking enemies from behind while remaining in the shadows, and you do that a lot. Shadows are your greatest ally, because most of the missions take place during the day. It makes sense in the game. To get an idea how the game works, consider the first Splinter cell, but little more forgiving. Of course there are numerous differences, but this will give you a general idea what to expect. Mechanically, the character's skills are as expected: walk, run, lean left and right, crouch, prone and jump. The last one looks like a ballet move. To be fair, jumping is only used a few times throughout the game. The button is also used to climb to specific places. When it comes to stealth, I found leaning to be useless. The game is primarily played from a third-person perspective, and I felt like this could expose you too easily, so I rarely done it, and because of the camera, you have enough visibility of your surroundings. When it comes to action, leaning is essential. It never got boring peeking around corners and doing some headshots. However, there is a functional first-person view if you prefer to play it that way. This may be more immersive to some, but losing some visibility is no go for me. I believe the game is intended to be played in third person because it never compels you to transition to first person. There are two movement speeds as well, walking and running. The latter appears to be a light afternoon jog. I bring this up because you can run while crouching. This is actually rather interesting. As a result, the game won't feel like a chore. If you don't want to hold the run button, you can toggle it. This is the primary reason I believe it's more forgiving than Splinter Cell. Standing and running naturally produces more noise. Crouch running is making almost none, which begs the question, why would you not run? Two reasons. The first is that while it makes less noise, there is still potential that the NPC will hear you, turn around and shout, drawing attention to himself. You will definitely know when this happens when this tense music starts playing, then all hell will break loose. It doesn't happen very often, but it does occur. This could result in your death. After all, you are a mushy toy, not a super soldier. The second is the visibility meter. It stays at the very bottom of the screen. Standing up and running could be a death sentence. Crouching lowers the visibility meter unless you are under a bright light. Even if you're in the shadows, the NPC can still notice when something is moving too fast. The only time it goes to absolute zero is when you're in a bush. Since the dawn of time, bushes have served as the ideal hiding place in video games. You won't see them very often, so forget about exploiting them. One thing to consider, and is very cool, is the enemy's head movement. Most of them have a patrol routine, but they are continuously moving their heads left and right. It's not a full swing, but still interesting to see. Capturing them from behind is crucial if you don't want to get shot point blank. One thing I find slightly disappointing is the lack of abrupt stops and or turning back, akin to what you see in the first level where you follow an NPC. It's a tailing mission and the person you are following stops to tie his shoes, cross the street, argue with people, and so on. I believe that giving the NPC a small percentage of doing something similar will increase the suspense and make you reconsider how you approach each encounter. There are some situations that can catch you off guard. An enemy may be lurking around the corner or behind closed door. It doesn't happen very often, so it's not too bothersome. They are scripted in the sense that you move over a certain point and the NPC begins to do their action. Unless you burst in, you usually have ample time to react. There are few who are just trolls with no chance to do anything unless you know there is an NPC there. If you haven't saved in a while, those times can be frustrating. Saving is done only manually. There are very few checkpoints. All this doesn't mean that the game is a cakewalk. If you don't pay attention to your surroundings, it's quite easy to get spotted and everything will go haywire. You might not want to risk getting close and personal with all the NPCs, so there is a variety of weaponry to select from. There are, however, some limits. Before each mission, you can choose from a set of pistols, automatic weapons and equipment. Depending on the requirements, you might not be able to choose any at all. With few exceptions, you must be especially cautious. There is no mean to defend yourself. You can't punch, you can only shoot. Some require harming no one, therefore, the sole option might be a taser with limited charges. They won't be enough to take down everyone, so knowing when to use it is critical. The Baltimore level is one example. You must infiltrate a police station. You can't just walk in and gun down everyone. On other stuff, you have a wide selection of 4 guns, 7 automatic weapons and 8 gadgets. When you see all of those choices, you know that all restrictions have been lifted. I have zero knowledge about weapons, so I can't tell you if the names are right or how true to life they are, but I can tell you how they feel. Really good. Pistols are fantastic, handy and deadly till the very end of the game. They are accurate to mid-range distances, but you can still miss. Here's the deal. The further the target, the more difficult it is to hit it, and I love that. Believe me, I tried and failed numerous times to hit NPC from a long distance. After all, it's not a sniper rifle. The automatic weapons are more intriguing to me. They are all loud, so even with a suppressor, they will still draw unwelcome attention if you're not careful. When shooting, there is a lot to consider. Moving the mouse causes the cursor to widen, and firing results in a large spread and less accuracy. You can also select a fire mode, single, burst or auto. I generally use single shots for one reason. The firearms kick back like in real life. It's more manageable and easier for me to kill NPCs and do headshots. Headshots. It's quite satisfying to pull them off, especially from a long distance. Great ragdoll physics and blood splatter. I tried most of them and they feel good, but while playing the game, an idea planted seed in my head that grew and grew. This is a stealth game. Why would I use a weapon without a silencer? So I spend the majority of my playing time picking weapons with a silencer. To be honest, I only use them when absolutely necessary. This is a self-imposed limitation, and I rather like creeping up and putting NPCs to sleep. There is no penalty for murdering enemies or bonuses for leaving everyone alive. You can go wild and try to kill everyone if you want, but you'd have exceedingly tough time, because it's easier to trigger an alarm while making any noise and you have only the weapons you start with. In very few levels you'll be able to swap your starting ones. Triggering an alert or NPC shouting will spawn far more opponents than the level currently has. Dealing with all of them is maybe possible, but it will be quite challenging. As previously stated, you are squishy. You die in 2-3 shots at the most, and headshots are instant reload from your last save. The way you restore your health is by using medkits on demand from your inventory. Despite this, some levels grants you access to additional weaponry, prompting you to take no prisoners. So even if you're like me, you can experiment with how others feel. To be honest, the mission design encourages you to take as much as you need for that level, and it effectively balances non-lethal and lethal methods. The use of a suppressor does not ensure a noise-free experience. If an enemy is at a certain distance, they can still hear you shooting someone. This also makes you think twice before leaving someone's brain on the wall. Doping someone with a gunshot to the head is faster and safer than following him, but are you sure he doesn't have a body around the corner? I dig this tension a lot. This approach to sound design is quite appealing. However, it's not essential for every title. It's determined on case-by-case basis, but Chameleon's realistic approach to the world works well and will make you think twice before putting an NPC to sleep. The equipment, or gadgets as I like to call them, are very conventional. Two of them are impossible to remove. The probe, a small camera that goes under every door even if it doesn't make sense, and a lockpick. If you are expecting a minigame, you'll be disappointed. Picking a lock is on a timer, and there are some really tight and suspenseful moments involving opening a door. Among other items are taser with limited charges for non-lethal takedowns, binoculars, night vision goggles, gas and flashbang grenades, and my personal favorite, a tiny crossbow. You only have a few shots, but they are little and quiet. In fact, it's the most silent weapon. You have to count every shot. Again, depending on the type of objectives, you will be limited in your options, but I never hesitated to bring the crossbow when I was allowed to. I only had one opportunity to choose grenades from the menu before the level, but I only just got the flashbang. There is a limit to how much you can carry, so that's why I didn't take the gas grenade. They were useful, but I believe their limited use was a good thing. They offer a big advantage. On the train level, I easily cleared the carriage with 3 NPCs waiting for me. I only used the taser once to check how it worked. The advantage is that falls drop faster than when choked, but you still need to get closer, and that's something I like using. One thing the developer added, and probably not everyone will approve, is the sound of a heartbeat. The faster it goes, the closer an NPC is. I genuinely enjoyed it. When combined with music, it creates a continuous sense of tension. When you push yourself into a little corner with a shadow and wait breathlessly to see which road the NPC will go. There are several times you can hear it, but no one is around. Then you start spinning and looking where the freaking NPC is. This could also generate tension. I knew why I couldn't see anyone, because this was my second playthrough. This doesn't make the game any easier. In larger levels, it's much easier to be spotted because you missed an NPC, so stuff like that helps alleviate the frustration. The level design is where all the game's mechanics live and die and allows you to use all the tools of the trade. Fortunately, it's rather good, for the most part. There is a wide range of locales around the world with great architecture. 2 cities with distinct vibe, a semi-military airport with guards and large hangars, a train station followed by a level set on a train, and a prison in Colombia with unique layout. You also walk the streets of Beirut, where people go about their daily lives in one side of the city, while the other is closely guarded. The level in Baltimore was the first that made a huge impression on me. Until then, you'll be passing through tunnels, railroad stations, and so on. Everything appears to be drab and grey. Then you arrive in Baltimore, which is vivid, energetic, and colorful, with skyscrapers, people and cars on the streets, and a completely explorable bar. There is even a billboard advertising something. I know it's all window dressing, you can only access store-related buildings, but it looks great and stands out from the other levels. You can explore an entire bar after speaking with the bartender. There is no reason to do so, there is nothing hidden, yet it indicates that the developers cared about the world building and adds to the place's believability. Then you have to sneak unarmed into a police station with 3 explorable floors and underground parking. Inside there are plenty of details to sell the world. Plants, cabinets, maps, fans spinning from the ceilings, fire extinguishers, signs on the doors, offices full of pinned papers, typewriters, etc. The game has been carefully crafted. Another favorite is the prison in Colombia. You are sneaking inside via cable, lurking in the courtyard shadows, avoiding patrols through steamy tunnels, and finally breaking into the prison cells. And the entire level is a loop. You don't need to go back to where you came from. I discovered this by accident, going to the exit before I was supposed to. Whoops! Not everything is rainbows and sunshine. They are linear by nature, and getting to the good levels takes time. Don't expect Hitman level of complexity. Going with this mindset will result in massive disappointment. The first in Belfast is quite good. It's actually quite nicely crafted as an introduction to all the game mechanics. It also takes you through many locations before culminating with a large shootout. The second, at the farm, likewise shows you stuff to some extent. It actually offers you a sniper rifle and demonstrates how NPCs can surprise you and keep you on your toes. After killing a sniper in a tower, which is one of your objectives, an NPC begins searching for him and this dramatic music begins to play.
Hey Donny, your shift's over mate, come on down. And hold on to the ladder right. We aren't keen on catching your fat arse like last time. Donny, move it, you're okay. Donny!
It's a fantastic moment. Aside from minor details like this, it's highly linear and forces you into a gunfight because you can't just simply walk around a barricade. Following that, it's just a large open field and a couple of houses. It's only the second level, you may be thinking. You claim they get better later. After the strong opening, this was a letdown. Even the first time I've played it, I never liked this level much. The quality starts improving with the third level, the semi-military airport in Albania. It's still a touch flat, with little variety in the scenery, but it offers more interesting objectives and locations to explore. There is one later level in Cuba which is padded for no apparent reason. You're gathering some stuff because they couldn't be delivered. Even in the narrative it doesn't make much sense. If it wasn't for this, it will be over in around 10 minutes, short and sweet. It's a beautiful level that transports you to Havana, but beauty is not enough. It actually becomes tense at one point, but they had to extend it to ruin the flow. The worst thing I've experienced is in Beirut. You have to enter a propaganda center which is guarded. When you come close to the door, the NPC will yell at you to leave. I've looked everywhere, but there is no other way in, so I went to YouTube and looked it up. The solution is simply to burst through the door. Several guards of course followed me. Until that moment, the game always provided a way for you to sneak into places, but this is simply poorly designed. I don't want to end on a sour note. When the levels are good, they are vast and full of obstacles, but when they are awful, they are like a corridor, long and narrow. The finest levels can offer variety in how you reach your objective. Let me use the train station level in Moldova as an example. You have two options after breaking into the restricted zone. After taking out a guard, you have to either proceed right and climb on top of this, or cross the railway and enter through this door. There is no hand holding, you have to discover it. Here is another example. The level in Beirut offers myriad of items to take in the loadout section, yet the next screen explicitly states that you cannot pass the barricades with firearms. So, do you take any and try to slip by them, or do you go empty-handed and straight through them, risking losing the advantage? This is simply fantastic. Keep in mind that there is a way to avoid them, but at any time someone could stop and search you. Nowadays it's not groundbreaking. After all, we have the Hitman games, but this is created by a small enthusiastic crew in the early 2000s. They deserve recognition for what they managed to achieve. Finally, there is an in-game map. Each is designed to look like a satellite photograph. It simply displays your current location, the layout of the level, and your objective. It does not show you the location of the enemies, that is up to you to discover. I honestly believe this is the coolest map I've seen in a game, and it fits thematically perfectly. The graphics are decent for 2003-2005 release. There's certainly more eye-catching games from those years, but Chameleon still looks good. It holds because of its world building, not because of textures, light, etc. The faces were one of the first things that drew my attention when I first started playing the game. The developer utilized the LS3D Mafia engine. The faces resemble a photograph on a 3D model. I'm sure it's more complicated than that. The faces are most likely scanned. To be honest, they give me an Uncanny Valley vibe because they appear more realistic than the rest of the game, but I dig them. It's unique in a good way, and since it was made by a small team, it's even more remarkable. So far in the video, I've mentioned AI in passing, but let's delve into a little more detail. It's fine with 2 words. They actively seek you. However, they walk so slowly that it's almost comical. If you find a location to hide, you will have a chance to stop the hunt. If a body of a friend falls next to them, they begin seeking around for the perpetrator. But I watched them walk over a corpse I left few minutes ago and nothing happened. They were just going about their business. On the plus side, they are particularly good at spotting you, so despite all I mentioned, you still must be cautious. They are also deadly accurate, sometimes even to a detriment. If they are alerted and expecting you, they can snipe you as soon as you pop your head. This was irritating at times, but there is still a chance they will miss at close range. Most mistakes will be your fault. The levels aren't merely packed with enemies, they are exactly as needed to be unless you trigger an alarm, so you can't blame the enemy placement. The excellent score by Milan Malik is one of the factors that contribute to the ambience of each level, dynamic when there is action on screen, moody when there is more personal or tense moments, and even mournful. It's a high-octane drum and bass mixed with guitars or percussions when the levels thematically needed. There is one odd track that you can hear in Afghanistan. I have no idea what the music is trying to convey and I dislike it. It's neither tense nor catchy. The game folder contains part of the music, but not the entire OST. However, the composer owns a recording studio and remastered the music before uploading it to YouTube. The link will be in the description. When you put the music to the side, the audio is okay. The main two characters whose voices you hear the most are well done, but I'm not a fan of the others. They don't have much to work with, so there is that. Also, I like how most NPCs have British accent, yet in cutscenes they have the appropriate one. The biggest mistake in the audio department is not having separate volume sliders for everything. There are only two, music and effects. I believe the voices are tied to the music slider because when I lowered the music it also lowered the voices, which was a bit of an issue in cutscenes. I know I said weapons were loud, but they don't pack much of a punch in terms of sound, despite the fact the sliders for the effects is higher than the music. They are just little too low for my taste, which takes away some of the fun when shooting. Whatever criticism I made in the video pales in comparison to what Take-Two did, shutting down the studio while still in its infancy and discarding the game without giving it a chance. My guess is that they didn't have enough faith in their success and opted to cut their losses. The game was put on hold for 2 whole years, and it's a crying shame. On one hand, there are many things that could be improved in a sequel, yet on other, it might be for the best that we only have one game. Take-Two would most likely milk it to death. Chameleon had potential to become a big franchise rivaling Splinter Cell. When you come across a game like this, your initial reaction is typically to ignore it, but every now and then you have to take a chance and discover whether there is more to it than meets the eye. Chameleon is far from flawless, and when compared to recent stealth games, it might be considered archaic in several ways. Yes, the plot could be told better. Yes, the gameplay elements could be improved, particularly the usefulness of all the weapons, but no game is perfect. You can tell the developer care about their product. There is plenty signs for a great game underneath, cooking, calling for a sequel. I want to end the video on a positive note. You can play the game for free and it works flawlessly on Windows 10 with no control issues or crashes. And in 1080p, the settings menu is not in English, but it's not an issue. Most things are fairly obvious. You can also add English subtitles and make the in-game menus and level briefings in English. It's available for free on ModDP. This is probably gonna be my last video for this year, and it took me so long to release it because currently I'm studying, I'm a student. I'm gonna try and release one more video in January. The game I have in mind will take us...
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
And it looks like to be what I was looking for in Dark Star 1. If the game is good as I think it is, it's a shame no one is talking about. Until then, keep buzzing.